I will find out that silver has been freed without me ever having to look for any data about silver, because it will have such a huge impact on the language. It will show up in the mainstream media in spite of their attempt to not print it. They'll do everything they can to not point this stuff out, and it will still get there because it'll have such a huge impact. Ever since the Treaty of Westphalia in 1699, the powers that be, the royals, have been attempting to control silver as it was the medium of exchange for the people. It's an interesting situation because they seized gold as their store of wealth, and everybody agrees with that, and they wanted to have further control over their populace, so they were attempting to do everything they could to control silver. So since 1699, we've basically been in a controlled market for silver. There were a couple of times where there was inflation that came in with silver, and it almost led to wars. One of them was when there was tons of Mexican silver brought over by the Spaniards, and it almost led to a war between Spain and France because the Spanish citizens were getting too much silver and being too prosperous, basically, and could go across the border and buy things at what we would think of as a discount for real silver in the French economy. And France was engaged in a war with England at the time, and it was causing them to have an inflationary problem. So this is really the key to the fiat currency chaos and crises that we're going to be getting into. At its core, all the way down, you find these two metals. Really three: copper to a certain extent, but primarily silver and gold. In the last 100 plus years, Bix-Weir identifies it as 150 years, and I'm convinced it is at least that long. We've had a consistent effort by a small group of people that eventually went on to form and own the central banks. And these people have been attempting to control the value of silver relative to a day's labor. That's their whole metric. Okay, so the powers that be, the globalists, don't really care about the metals. They have the metals, but they have no emotional attachment or affiliation to the metals at all. It's just a tool for them. Their real goal is to maintain a currency that is related to a human. And so we see them now with the Great Reset attempting to create a currency that is tied to your global carbon credits. And so they want to have this currency that is basically $1, so to speak, per one slave, right? And we're the slaves. And they get to own us through this currency mechanism, as they do now with their debt slavery. This is coming to an end. Fiat currencies break down repeatedly about every 20 to 25 years, and consistently we've been through that. The petrodollar has been sustainable because of the warfare model supporting it, but also because of the digital technology growth underlying its spread. But we're now at the pinnacle of that. It cannot continue any longer. A few days, maybe a few weeks, that sort of thing. And the breakdown of it is going to free silver and gold from this 150, at least, year suppression of its natural price. And they will free silver. We'll get to $600. I think that's the kind of thing that will happen very rapidly. So the data sets had said that when silver broke loose, we would get a day when it would go up $1, and then the next day it'd go up $2. Then the next day after that it would go up $2, then it'd go up $5, and then it would go up $20. And thereafter it was off to the races. So I'm looking for that very rapid progression, and over a course of maybe a week, that it would double in value. It could happen next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for all I know. It'll happen suddenly because it's the digital dollars. The digital dollars will crash suddenly because it is a system, and when systems go, they don't really crumble, they just sort of break and get turned off. And so I'm uncertain as to how long it will continue. Now I see that based on the relative hyperinflation that we've got, a $600 level for silver is going to cause a major problem for all of these derivatives that are often these quadrillions of dollars. A lot of those are tied to commodities in the form of oil and other things, but those commodities are ultimately tied to this store of value, which is silver and gold, right? All of the financial systems and stuff are not organic. They were not part of our economy. We don't need a financial system. The idea of these people in the conspiracy world that we're going to replace one financial system with another is absurd. Because what we need is an economic interactions between ourselves and to have an economy. But why should we have a regulated system? System implies central control. And we don't want that. We want to be free people, right? And so if you've got silver in your hand, you're free. You don't have anybody owning you through debt. This is what the powers that be hate. None of these guys can live with that. And when that breaks free, it breaks their system at such a core level that mentally it will shock so many people. They're basically paying you to buy silver, because if we were to look at John Williams' shadow stats, it should be adjusted for inflation over the 1980 price. Silver should be about $600 an ounce. And obviously it is not. Obviously that if you go into a store and you wanted to buy an ounce of silver, you'd be paying in the $20 range, right? Maybe 30 depending on the nature of the coin or something, right? It is difficult for us to try and describe to these kids what it was like in the towns across the United States and the world at that point, with people lining up during those days to get either oil or gas for their cars or buy gold or silver. I remember in a little podunk town that I was in at that time, 100 people lining up at a local coin store before it opened up on a Monday morning to go on in and hopefully buy some silver. And they were willing at that point to pay $100 an ounce. So obviously, they're subsidizing that by the tune of $540 or $570, because that's what we should be at in its real value relative to currencies. And so, in that sense, the powers that be, in attempting to suppress the silver, are creating the hill that they will die on by pushing that price down. Because it means more of us can buy it, which they don't want. But they can't have that price rise because it destroys the thing that they do want, which is for us to take their dollars. If silver were to be very much more expensive, the dollar is that much less valuable.